how important with training and leadership, because that's I did the business thing. Now I'm into like the leadership and management.
I think what's also really important as an entrepreneur is realizing that you don't have to know everything. You have to hire the people that do.
Talk to me about your business right now from the education standpoint, like what you're doing, and
There's courses out there, but there's no global standard.
what do you see that going forward? Like, what do you want to expand from that? Is there anything?
I just want to be able to reach more. My goal is that this is household library of techniques for injectors.
Welcome back to The Shift, from limitation to liberation. I'm your host, Dr. Vega. On today's episode, we have Alexis. She's a physician assistant, and she is the owner and founder of the Orlando Injector. She currently works as a 1099 employee for a plastic surgery office, and is also trying to start her business and grow her business in the education side for aesthetic injectors, right?
Mhm. Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, I brought you here today. You actually did some of my training for some injectables, and I know about what you're doing, and I think it's really cool. The education side, the creating the book and the courses, and I wanted to deep dive into that, but also talk about that mindset shift that providers need to make in order to become an entrepreneur, right? Working at W-2, they want to start their own business, and it kind of like the mindset shift that you have to make, and the process of awareness and limiting beliefs, and that keeps people stuck, right? Working for somebody else. So let's start with your story today. Take us back to the beginning.
So I started out in cardiology as a PA, and just like everybody else bedside, got burnt out working for the corporate gods, right? And just feeling like there had to be more out there. So I actually took a hard left out of medicine and opened up a couple gyms in Orlando. And with zero experience, I had literal zero business experience, but I knew I was over it in the hospital, and there was more for me. There was something more out there that was calling me to do bigger and better things, in my opinion. So I did. I opened up two gyms, and I learned the hard way that running a business is very much over romanticized, and there's a very dark side to all of it. And I think people don't learn that. It sounds really fancy, right? To own your own business, to have your own LLC, but there's a lot of tears, a lot of sleepless nights, a lot that goes into it. And you end up working 10 times harder than you would working for the corporate gods, right? But it fuels this passion in you, and you feel like you have so much purpose. So I opened up these two gyms, and then ultimately these gyms were kind of self-running, and I felt this calling to transition back into medicine. Honestly, full transparency, COVID was the big turning point in my career to say, you know what, the gyms are great, but what's the first thing that people cut during COVID? A gym membership, right? So I was pregnant at this time, and I'm like, you know what? I need something more stable. I have this beautiful PA degree that I'm not using. So let me transition back into medicine. But this time I wanted more autonomy. I wanted it to be on my terms and not weekend call and all of that. So I transitioned into aesthetics, and the reason I chose aesthetics is because I felt like the clientele was very parallel. The person that was going to the gym is also the person wanting to have that self-care, that skincare, Botox, filler. So it kind of just organically happened, and I fell into a role, but I still kind of missed that entrepreneur purpose in my life. I felt like just showing up, clocking in, clocking out wasn't for me. And that's what's kind of organically and evolved into. I do work for somebody else now in somebody else's practice, but I've I've been able to kind of soothe my or fill my entrepreneur cup by working on resources that I feel injectors need when they're first starting out, hosting my private trainings, and kind of building my own internal brand within somebody else's house.
Absolutely. Yeah. I know you were doing P as a cardiologist. From that to opening a gym, walk me through all the mentalities. Like, hey, I'm a cardiologist PA. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to open a gym.
Honestly, it was, I'm full transparency. I met a guy who was very close friends with somebody who owned a franchise of gyms in California. And that's how the conversation started. He was sick of being a general manager at a big box gym. I was sick and tired of working for other people and not being appreciated and feeling like I just had more to give. And it was a perfect storm of two people that felt like they just needed more out of life. And so we came together. We had this opportunity. We had no idea what we were doing. We emptied out our entire savings account and kind of just hit the ground running. And to start, this was a group fitness training facility. So we were the trainers, the front desk, the sales, the cleaning crew. We were everything. So it's not all just you open up a gym, you put in equipment, and the people will come. It's a grind from day one. So it kind of started out as just two people that were fed up with working for somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's the same thing with and it's the same thing with the practice, right? You go from a W-2, well, you're cardiology, so you basically you have patients come to you because of insurance, right? Whoever cardiology you're working for, or they're in network, I'm gonna go see them. Show up to work, you got patients on your schedule. So, but when you go into owning any business, it can be the gym, can be your own practice. Now you out there, you have to fend for yourselves, right? So a lot of people don't understand that, and you're not taught. They don't teach you that in PA school or medical school or any sort of like um, graduate school in the health field, right? Um, so what was the thought process? Was there any specific thought process when you went? I know it kind of happened, but because I think there's a big difference, right, from a cardiology PA to, I mean, cardiology PA to the gym business. Like what was that mindset shift? You like, hey, I'm just gonna go for it. Did you go into like, hey, I'm gonna research? It doesn't sound like you. Did you do a lot of research before you just jumped in? Like, I'm just gonna just take the jump and learn as it goes, right? And it just takes some special personal mentality, right, to do that.
I will say, looking back, I should have failed, right? I had no experience. I had no idea how to run a business. I had only been a PA for, I think at that point, 4 years. I was still a baby. I was in my 20s. But I think you have a person that trusts in their ability to persevere. And I trust in my resilience and I trust in my ability to just fight. And that coupled with being fed up enough with your current situation, I think I just trusted that I will always be the hardest worker in the room, so I will figure it out. And I'm not saying that that's the smartest decision. I should have done more research. I should have sat down. I barely even looked at like the franchise documents. Like it was just a perfect recipe of let's just give it a shot. And I trust in my ability to fall and pick myself back up and keep showing up. So I, looking back, I probably shouldn't have done as well as I did. I think hard work and just continuing to stand back up, it will get you through anything. That resilience, that grit, really.
Exactly. But you hear about stories like that from a lot of entrepreneurs. It's the same thing, and people don't see that. They see the success, but even I mean, you can say a little bit of luck, but a lot of like determination and grit, and actually taking action and pivoting, right? Because you have to be able in entrepreneurship, you have to be able to pivot fast, right? Something's not working, realize it, move, and then switch directions, right? And you have to be able to do it quick. And some of it is learned, some of it is just also instinct, right? That you just have type of person you are. But that's good though, because a lot of people get stuck in analysis paralysis and they go for, there's I mean, yeah, you didn't do any, but then other people can be the other extreme where they're just like researching and researching and researching, and they never take that step forward. And like we spoke before the podcast, um, you don't know what you don't know. So a lot of times you have to just, take the necessary precautions or educate yourself as much as you can. But at the end of the day, you have to just take action. Like you say, you're gonna fail certain things. You just have to learn from it and move on. Um, Do you have any doubts, any limiting beliefs? Because I know a lot of people, like even me, when I was even going back to medical school, because I was a physical therapist first for 8 years. I went back to med school at 32. One of the reasons why I didn't go to medical school when in my 20s, when I went to UF, is because I was scared of the MCAT. I didn't think I was smart enough, right, to take the MCATs and organic chemistry at UF, because those classes were horrible. They were really tough. And so I took my GRE. I went to physical therapy school. I was a personal trainer through undergrad, so I always loved exercise. I'm like, okay, this is perfect. And I did that but I was never content. I was never happy. I always had this burning desire where I wanted more. And I'm like, no, I want to be a physician. Working as a physician at the hospital, most of my friends were physicians. And I'm like, you're a doctor, like you're a physician. It's like, if you did it, why can't I do it? Right. So I make that big shift transition again at 32, where I left my career to go back to medical school and be a medical student for 4 years and then 5 years of postgraduate training. Right. And then going from that, having a W-2 to leaving that behind to open my own practice. So I made all the shifts in my life. And, it's like, like one of my mentors is Myron. He's like, listen, how from your previous experiences in your life, how can you provide value to somebody else? Right. And I feel that even before that, I never thought about going to college. I was going to join the Marine Corps at 17, and I had a really bad car accident where I had a subdural hematoma, fractured my arm, my pelvis. When I went to join, a recruiter told me, it's like, oh, well, you have to wait 5 years from the date of the accident to go in. They want to make sure everything's fine. And at that point, I ended up going to UF. And by the time that everything happened, I'm like, I was already in physical therapy school. It's like, I'm not going to go now. So I have made so many transitions and shifts in my life. So how can I use that to provide value for somebody else, right? How can you help somebody see, it's like, hey, you're not stuck in your situation. You can do it because other people have done it, right? It's just, you have to, first of all, you have to become aware there's a problem. You have to get that in your mind. It's like, hey, this person did it. Why can't I do it? It's like, just have to, and then take action, right? Which is pretty cool. I know we talked about, were you afraid? I'm assuming you were afraid that things weren't going to work out, or you didn't even have that fear at the time.
It sounds so strange. And I think it's just because I was really young. I didn't know what I didn't know, right? So I didn't know what it was like. And this is before TikTok and before mentors and before any of that. Like, I I think fast forward to, let's say I were to take that jump or that leap now with what I know, I'd be more fearful, right? Back then, I was naive. I didn't know what it took to run a business. I didn't know, for example, something as silly as I didn't know you had to pay sales tax. Like, that sounds so silly, and you get the payment in your bank account, but I didn't know you had to go on Department of Revenue and make a payment. For some reason, I thought it was just taken out before it came to your bank account. So then when you get a knock on the door of, hey, you owe $60,000 in sales tax, as a gym, it's life changing. It's a punch in the stomach. So things like that, like, you don't realize until you get slapped in the face and you have to say, all right, well, we got to figure this out. So I think the lack of fear just came from the ignorance of not knowing what I was actually signing up for.
Exactly. Yeah, you don't know. You don't know what you don't know, right? That happens too with from a medical standpoint. People, if you're a physician and you're used to dealing with complications for procedures and all these things, you kind of hesitant sometimes about like a procedure, say, and then you're dealing with somebody else that they have no idea what can go wrong. Oh no, it's fine. Let's just do it. I'm like, well, there's other this, again, I know that. Again, ignorance is bliss, like they say, kind of the same thing. So it can be good and bad. Um, it can be bad in the sense that somebody might, if they understand how hard it is, it might not take the action to do it, right? But I mean, at the end of the day, something that I always go back to is um, your why. Why are you doing what you're doing, right? So if you have a strong why, then you can go through anything, right? Because if you don't have a strong why, things might get so hard that you just quit, right? And I think that's a very important thing too. Having a strong why. I think is it Dan Martell that has a book called "What's Your Why." I forgot who was the author. I have to look at it again. But there's a book about your why. Um, Talk about family because that's the thing that's very important to me, and one of the reasons why I want to do what I do. I want to provide for my family, and eventually one day, if my daughter wants to take care of the business or if she wants to sell it and take the money, whatever it is, but I want to have a future for them. Right? You're a W-2 employee. You work for somebody 20, 30 years. And you have nothing to show up at the end, right? I mean, you might have a 401k as some investments, but when you're building your own business, you have something that is tangible that you can exit hopefully in the future for a multiple that's yours, right? Um, how did your spouse, family felt about the decision for you to start your own thing? Let's say for now, for like the Orlando Injector, like you wanted to do your own. Like I want to start a course for educating injectors in techniques, right? Because again, the aesthetic world is kind of a wild west, right? It's like there's no really formal education for it. So it's like, no, I want to start something where I can educate other providers how to do proper technique, injection safety. Start your book and start your YouTube channel, which is another thing that you did to teach other injectors. How were you family supported?
Oh my goodness. In the industry, to take a step back, in the industry, it's very female dominant, right? And I hear oftentimes the battle in marriages of women wanting to step away from the home when they have kids and pursue their dreams and pursue speaking on podiums and traveling and training and stuff, and the struggle, the home struggle that they have, because obviously we have this maternal instinct to be home and take care of the family. And I feel that I, especially with my husband, have found somebody who truly supports my crazy dreams and my relentless pursuit for improvement and never being able to be satisfied or happy. And I reach a goal and I don't even celebrate. I set a new goal. And I feel like I found somebody who really kind of celebrates that in me and doesn't kind of squash me down. And so my support at home is beyond what I can ask for, because I think that that's where it starts. If you at home don't have that person that's like, go for it, do it, sure, I'm here, I got your back, then I feel like you're just trapped and handcuffed and you feel like you can't be who you are. And to be honest, I wouldn't be with somebody who doesn't allow me to reach for the stars and do what I want to do and set crazy goals and stay up late and wake up early and get a babysitter. And you know what I mean? I can't be with somebody who wouldn't let me be who I want to be, with that like pursuit of just greatness and always wanting to improve.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to have that support is very important. Like my wife too. It's like I feel crazy sometimes because I'm always again so I went back to I made the decision to go back to medical school at 32. So I was living in downtown Orlando. I had a car and motorcycle. I got rid of everything. Moved back with my parents for a year because I still needed to take organic chemistry 1 and 2 and study for the MCAT. So I was literally moved back with my parents for a year at 32. Lived there for a year. Took organic chemistry. Took 1 to study for my MCATs. I was working full time as a therapist, and then to go back and then went to medical school. Finished medical school. Got into fellowship. So 10 years of like laser focus. First, I had to get to medical school. I got to take my MCATs. Then I got to get through medical school. I had to pass my USMLE exams. Then I had to get into residency. Then I had to get into fellowship. Just goal after goal after goal after goal. And then after 10 years, I finished that. And then I started working for health insurance. And I'm seeing patients and I'm stuck in a little 10 by 10 office the whole day. And I'm like, I lost that. There was nothing. There was no goal at that time. It was no climb. It's like, okay, I'm here. I'm here now. I'm seeing patients. I have a good paying job. No call. No weekends. Good pay. But again, I was still limited though in the treatments that I could do for my patients, right? Because again, I started doing a lot of, I wanted to do regenerative medicine. I wanted to do stem cells. I wanted to do platelet rich plasma. Insurance company doesn't cover that. So the only thing that I could do, I was working as a non-operative orthopedics for them. My job was to keep patients from getting to have having to go to an orthopedic surgeon, right? So because 80% of orthopedic injuries are non-operative, right? So I could manage that. If they tore an ACL, meniscus, they need surgery, then send them to the surgeon. But other than that, for all the nerve blocks, joint injections, I did that, right? That was my job. But again, the only thing that I could do was steroid injections, right? And they're horrible for your joint. They destroy tendons, they destroy your joint, but that's the way that it's always been done, right? So then it got to a point where I'm like, hey, I can just stay here, be comfortable, but not do what I really want to do, or I can make another shift. I can go ahead and start my own practice. Again, that comes with a lot of like uncertainty, fears, 100-hour weeks again, because you while you get it going, right? But it was that decision. It's like, okay, well, I can just stay here, and I think little by little, like kind of like that passion just die off, or hey, I already made a bunch of shifts in my life. Why not one more? And then I decided to go back and start my own practice little by little, research how to start your LLC, bank account, malpractice, everything else, and making that shift again, which was scary, but it was like, hey, 10 years laser focus was what now have to be more. So again, and now it's like, hey, I want to start a podcast. I want to do this. I want to do that. And sometimes I think it's like, is there something wrong with me? But the more I hang out with people that have the same mentality, it's like, no, it's just people that are entrepreneurs. It is always that you have to set the bar higher. You get to a goal, you accomplish it, but you have to go, okay, what's harder than go to medical school? Oh, let's start a business now, you know?
Yep, I'm right there with you, and my family always jokes there. I remember saying I when I first started writing my first book, I was like, okay, when I get to this number, I'm going to be so excited. Like, can you imagine getting to this book sale number? And I got there and I sent a text to my family. No, I didn't send a text. My family randomly texted me and was like, how many have you sold? And I said X number. And they were like, that's way beyond what you set. And I'm like, oh yeah, but I reached it and I immediately bumped it up. I was like, I can do that. So what, and they're like, why don't we celebrate? I'm like, because it's not that it's not enough. It's that you just have this burning desire to reach for more, reach for more. So you're like, great, I did it. Okay. What's next? What's next? What's next? And it's just that person inside of you. It's not that you're necessarily unsatisfied. It's that you know that you can do more. So let's do it. And you don't even want to waste time celebrating that goal because you're like, that's for peasants. I already did that. Like, let's move on. So yes, and you have to surround yourself with people that are in that same mindset, or else you sound like you're bragging, or you sound like you are just money hungry, or whatever the case may be. When you're with this circle of people that are like-minded, you leave with this like fire lit in you, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not crazy. So that's so important.
No, it is. It is. I go to masterminds, and it's something that you need to do so often, right? Because again, you can go to these masterminds and you get so excited and you set goals, but then you go back to the daily grind and kind of like you need to, it's hard sometimes to stay motivated, right? I mean, it's hard for people that are motivated to stay motivated. So I can imagine for people that are not. But going to events like that, and you say hanging out around people, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. Or if you're making the most amount of money in the room, you're in the wrong room, right? Because again, you have to just strive for more. And then who are you going to listen to? You're going to listen to people that are doing what you've done and are doing a lot better to learn from, right? Because it's not going to be the other way around, right? Um, so again, with the whole thing we talked about before, it's like with your life experiences, how can you provide value for other people? And when you talk to these people too, it's funny. And some of these people are making so much money you can even fathom, right? And it's like they are willing to help, right? So I heard somebody said that people that are above you will never kick you down. It shows that people that are below you that try to pull you down, right? And it's just a whole different mindset and mentality. But you have to surround yourself with people like that. So now, since we're in that topic, do you, as far as like, what do you think about mentorships? You in any sort of mentorship of coaching?
I've I had when I first became an injector, I am it's so interesting in aesthetics, right? Because you can go to med school, you could be a trauma ICU surgeon, and you start out in aesthetics, and it doesn't matter what your background is, you are a day one provider. So it's so interesting finding work in aesthetics because they want you to have experience, but you don't have experience coming out of school until you get your hands dirty in injectables. But I found organically just fell into the lap of my mentor, and I wanted to work for him, who is the owner of the Village Institute of Plastic Surgery, who is the owner of that practice. And I wanted to work underneath him so bad that I worked for a year for free, so that I said, I will be an assistant to you. I just want to be around you, absorb everything that you are willing to offer me, and just take it all in. You don't have to pay me anything, and I'm just here to take it in. And I knew that that didn't come at a PA salary, that luxury. So I took 10 steps back my first year as an injector to then take 10 giant leaps forward as now this great experienced injector, having shadowed somebody for an entire year. So from an injector standpoint, the aesthetics, I have an incredible mentor that I've continued to grow with. And then from a business standpoint, my I have zero mentor, and my mindset is more of throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks, and learning from people that I follow through YouTube and TikTok, and just getting little clips and stuff like that. But from a business standpoint, I'm flying by the seat of my pants.
I mean, yeah, I did a lot of that. I'm actually looking into doing some like specific business mentorship. There's a couple of big aesthetic people that have mentorships in the process because we're scaling now, right? We are um, the place that we're in right now is temporary. We're actually going to build our own space, right? So I'm like, hey, I want to make sure that when we go into this space again. I learned a lot over the past 2 years. I learned a lot, but I want to make sure that my mindset is now is like, hey, in 5, 10 years, how can we sell this to a PE group, right? So you want to make sure that everything is done by the book, right? The bookkeeping, the P&Ls, the balance, the budget, the income statements, the budgets. You want to make sure that everything is done. The attorney, the forms, everything, right? So, and a lot of those things, you're gonna need some sort of like guidance because again, I mean, you can learn, but you might be wasting time, and time is very, very important. Like my mentor says, it's like, listen, the people that says that time is money, they don't know, because time is worth a lot more than money. That's why people that are um, high paid entrepreneurs, they pay to buy time back, right? Like Dan Martell, buy you time back, buy back your time, right? Because you can pay somebody to do a task that you don't have to be doing, right? Like a $10, he has what you have to calculate your buyback time, right? And once you calculate your buyback time, you're like, okay, well, if it's $25 an hour, I can hire up to somebody to pay $25 an hour that's going to be doing this task when I want to be doing tasks that are worth $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 an hour, right? I don't need to be wasting my time doing $25 an hour tasks, right? But again, it's going to be different for everybody depending on the stage you're in, right? But people understand that concept that time is worth more than money, and you buy back your time by paying people to do. Now with VAs, right, you can hire a VA and for a couple $100 a week do all your administrative tasks, right? Like we have somebody working on our tracking our leads, calculating our KPIs, working on some like social media stuff, right? And And again, why I could do it, but then I'm wasting my time on things that I shouldn't be doing when I can be concentrating on expanding the business, growing the business, things that are going to bring more things to the business. And as people grow, you listen to all these guys now that have all these multi-million dollar companies. They're not even running the company, they're on social media, right? Just growing their audience, right? They have a team of executives.
That's all Alex Hormozy does is he puts out like 900 pieces of content a month. And it's just to obviously spread awareness. And for you in your position, it's almost like you need to hire an acquisition company to work backwards and say, these are the things that you need to have in place if you want to sell at year 5. And have them coming in and saying, you have to have your employee handbook, all these things in place that'll help elevate the value and only drive bringing in products. I think where, especially in the aesthetic space, because we're all just so burnt out and have no business background, we jump into owning a med spa and then we buy 100 products, devices, all this stuff, and our margin is just crap. So there, I think focusing laser focus on what's going to have the biggest margin, what device do I need to bring in, and what are the few products that are going to make me the most money on paper, so that everything is like you literally start year 5 and work your way back.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we did a lot of research. We carry a couple of products and all medical grade. We did our own research because again, at the end of the day, it's a result based business, right? And an issue that again, the aesthetic industry is a wild west now. You have people doing all kind of in medicine. You have to go through approve any medication or any treatments. It goes through years of research, right? Now with aesthetics, it's like, hey, how about we microneedle Botox on your forehead? I'm like, where is the research behind that? You know, like there are so many things that people are doing. I laugh because I was talking. My wife shows me videos sometimes of like these people on Instagram doing these things. I'm like, well, somebody just made it up, and now people are following the trend, right? But so we did again, we want to make sure that we do our research very well on the brands that we bring in. Again, the equipment that we bring in, we want to make sure we give you results. And also as a physician, and thinking from a business standpoint, that I want to grow and scale, what services I can bring into the practice that I don't have to do. Because again, if I do the service, I'm stuck back to, hey, trading my time for money. And when you're trying to grow a business, you can't, because you know how time consuming it is to literally be doing services, documentation, dealing with follow ups. And it's just, okay, well, I'm a physician, I'm the medical director. How can I keep building the practice with services that can be done by either a mid level that I can hire, or estheticians on our end, right? And then what we're doing right now is we're just creating all the SOPs, creating all the systems, because at the end of the day, that's what gives the business the value, right? If the business is generating all the income without me being there, that business has enterprise value. It's like, oh no, I go there just to see Dr. Vega. He's the one that's doing those regenerative medicine treatments. Well, the business, if I'm not there, the business doesn't make money. That's not really a business, right? So again, it has no enterprise value. And I looked into buying a business before, and if it is that type of business, a lot of times these PE groups make you stay. They make you stay like a year to transition, and then they own you for that, for that year, 2 years, whatever's on the contract. So again, thinking strategically, we're going to build this from the ground up, but we're going to build it already with the end in sight. Hey, we're going to sell this one day. I don't want to get to the point that we're 5 years in and then like, oh no, this is how we got to do things, and then you have to backtrack, and that's not a smart business move.
I think the biggest thing for you is not even being any part of the forward facing part of the business, the front facing. The patient shouldn't know that you exist, because you want to be able to be behind the scenes. Maybe in the beginning, just like when I started my gyms, I was trainer, all that stuff. But eventually and quickly, you want to get to the point where you're managing the staff and you have no part of what the patient is experiencing. Because where I learned the hard way is I poured my heart and soul into the first location. I was there every morning. I knew what everybody's struggle was. I knew that this person hurt their knee on a trampoline the week before, and I became the culture of the gym. The moment I stepped back to open up location 2, location 1 was hurting, because nobody is going to love on your clients and your patients the way you do. So my first mistake, and probably biggest mistake, is I was too much of a presence in that first location, that when I removed myself, the culture hurt because of it. So if I could go back, I wouldn't have been any part of the face of the business and really helped grow the team, and not put all of my eggs in my basket, basically, to create the culture, because you can't scale when you are the reason it's succeeding.
Correct. Yeah. And one thing now that we're hiring employees is just it becomes so apparent how important with training and leadership, because that's, I did the business thing, now I'm into like the leadership and management like books and stuff. And it's funny because back when I was a therapist like 15 years ago, I'll hear my like the CEO or the manager, they're all, I'm like, why are these people just reading so many leadership books? I'm like, why is that important? And now it's like 20 years later, when you have your own practice, you understand you're trying to grow a business. You don't want to be part of the, I mean, you don't want to be in the business. So then you're trying to hire people to do something that you want to be done the right way. And it just becomes about how you train those people, and then also being a good leader, being able to motivate people, right? To just like, hey, I forgot who was talking about. I think it was Dan Martell was talking about the difference between it's a transformational leader versus like if you're a business owner. One thing is you hire an employee and you have to tell him, hey, okay, I want you to do this, and they do it, and after they're done they check their job, okay, perfect, now I want you to do this. And he's like, you're not never going to grow like that. You have to be a transformational leader. You start with the outcome. It's like, hey, I want you to manage my Facebook page, I want you to manage my Instagram, I want you to do this. You don't tell them the steps how to do it, you tell them what you want the outcome to be, right? I think he calls it the 10-80-10 rule, right? 10%, the first 10%, hey, this is the vision, this is the idea, this is the outcome that I want. 80% they're doing all the work, they're doing all the technical stuff or whatever, and then 10% you come at the end and okay, this is done the right way, and you present it. Same thing, he gives the example of like Steve Jobs with the iPhone, right? First 10%, this is the idea, this is what I want to get done. He's not the one that's developing the software, he's not the one that's making the iPhone. He had the vision, he had the idea, he told his employees to do it, he let them do it. He hired the best of the best, the best software engineers, the best whatever, and then the last 10% make sure everything is done properly, and then you go present it, right? And that's that transformational leadership, right? And it comes back to, again, training and leading your people the right way, which is something, again, that when I started 2 years ago, I would have never known that. But again, if you wait to know everything before you start, you never start. So it's like, hey, just start, just take the leap, just start, and you're gonna learn along the way.
I think what's also really important as an entrepreneur is realizing that you don't have to know everything. You have to hire the people that do. And I learned that I really don't enjoy managing people. I enjoy, I'm a hard worker and I will show up and do my best job, but I have weaknesses and I have strengths. So you want to hire people in your business that have strengths that are your weaknesses. So you balance each other, and then you can do the things that really fuel your heart. But I think as entrepreneurs, we get this like kind of like big chest pride of like, we have to know everything. We don't. Steve Jobs doesn't know everything. Elon Musk doesn't know everything. These people who run massive companies don't know everything. They hire the people that do, that have strengths that are their weaknesses. And I think when you first start out, letting go of that pride and realizing like, I don't know how to do this, so let me hire this person that does. And that's how you build a successful business, is you have the right people in place.
Yeah. And it's tough though, as a medical provider, you have a lot of education, right? And you, most people are type A, where no, but that's the way that you are in school, right? You have to get the right answer. A lot of people, they're so competitive that I have to get the best grade in the class. I can't get the wrong answer, and um, it's all about being right and doing everything yourself, and you can, because there's so many things, and I'm like, yeah, I'm smart enough, I can go learn it, but I'm gonna waste all that time learning it. And even if I do learn it, I'm not gonna learn it as well as someone that's their profession, that's their specialty, that's all they do, right? So I'm gonna waste time learning it, and then I'm still not gonna do it as good as somebody that's all they do. So yeah, that's when you come back there. I'd rather just pay them, buy my time back, use my time to grow my business, become better at what I do, and then have them. And I'm learning that lesson now too, because again, as a physician, or any high level education like masters or PA, um, is that thing. It's like, I know I have to learn, I have to know everything, and that's a hard thing to let go at the beginning. But do you have to do in order to grow?
And it's also hard to hire somebody and then realize you're not needed in that role, right? So like when we first hired our first manager to manage both locations, like people weren't coming to me and asking me for things, and I was like, I'm here to, like, I know the answer too. And it's kind of like relinquishing that like mom role of like, I don't have to do it all. Like this is really good for the business, but it's kind of that pride of like, I want to be able to do it all, but that doesn't make sense at the end of the day. And I think you learn that the hard way. When you're doing too many things, you get burnt out, and then you realize you really didn't do anything. You spent a lot of time trying to figure it out, and it could have been done.
Absolutely, because your brain can only process so many things at once, right? And when you start trying to do everything, you become so overwhelmed that nothing gets done, or if it gets done, it gets done, halfway or half-assed, right? It doesn't get done the right way. So that's a very important point, is just letting go of like, hey, I have to know everything. No, you need to. It comes back down to that leadership, right? You have to, and then knowing how to hire, which is another issue we're dealing with now. Again, so, and the issue we're having is right now we have a lot of people that, we hire people, but um, that's another story for another day. But it's tough, right? And then you have to be able to, was it hire slow, fire fast? I want to tell you, this is your job responsibility. Is I don't need to babysit you. I just want you to, do what you're supposed to do.
And that's what I said about not enjoying managing people is when you keep toxic behavior in the practice, it spreads like cancer. And then it's hard to bring it back in when you've let things go for so long. So from the jump, you have to set the tone of this is not going to be acceptable practice. And you have to, as hard as it is, because I'm somebody who leads with my heart, you have to fire fast or at least write up fast. Because once that toxic behavior spreads, then another employee watches and they're like, okay, well, they let them do that, so I can do this. And it's just this snowball of this cancer tumor that's growing in your practice. And to come back from that is 10 times harder than letting go of that first employee.
Yeah. And it's hard too, because he said, like, most medical professionals are good hearted, right? They want to do good, and having those hard conversations is tough, right? But if you don't have those hard conversations, and then you just get to a point that, okay, well, we have to let you go, and then, well, I thought I had been doing well this whole time, because you never had, I think, um, Gary Vaynerchuk, he says, his ability to have candor is what has helped him grow, right? Because again, you feel bad. You feel bad. Like I said, as a good-hearted person, you don't want to hurt somebody's feelings. But it's like, well, you're not doing a good job. But that was never said. So then it's one day, it's like, well, I think your numbers are down. You're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. We're gonna have to let you go. But this whole time, they think they're doing a great job. So again, just getting through that. I mean, and that all comes back. That's the leadership and management thing, which is like another thing that you have to learn as you grow, right? Um, I know we've been talking about a lot about other things. I want to talk a little bit about, like, specifically. So, what are you talk to me about your business right now? Not the in the practice, but from the education standpoint, like what you're doing. And
Yeah, so I felt this need, and just like you had brought up in the very beginning, there is no standard of education in the aesthetic industry. There is no there's courses out there, but there's no global standard of you need this degree or this certificate to become an injector. I think in the next 5, 10 years, it will ultimately turn into that, but as it sits right now, it's the wild, wild west. So I felt that there was a need to have this like library of textbooks that wasn't just an anatomy book, that wasn't just an injector like puffing up her chest and saying she's an expert. I felt that there was a need for a resource for newer to advanced injectors that had everything, the good, the bad, the ugly of each area of injection. So, for example, I started out with my lip book, and it's full anatomy, custom anatomy graphics, it's a full video portal step by step, and it's reviewing my complications that I've experienced in my practice. It's talking through what with this complication, what did I do? How did I get through it? And then literally just humbling myself and sharing the dark side of injectables. And then that book was successful, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I really feel that there's this need. So then I did a jawline book, and then I did a cheek book, and then now I'm working on the perioral region. And my goal is to have this beautifully accessible book of, it's not me showing up as the expert, it's more of me saying I've put in the work, I've shed the tears, I've put in the hours, here's my experience in a resource that I wish I had in the beginning, and hopefully you can avoid things that I ran into by just reading this book. And I feel that I've just not only fueled my entrepreneur cup, but I've also poured so much value back into the industry. When an injector messages me and they're like, I used your technique and I'm obsessed with my results, and it's just, my heart explodes every time I see a message like that. So what started out as a need in the industry has like evolved into this like wild purpose of mine.
it's awesome. So what do you see that going forward? Like, what do you want to expand from that? Is there anything, any vision, goals that you have?
I just want to be able to reach more. I feel that where I'm at in my career is I'm kind of stuck in who I can access based on social media. So for me, I realized that I can only access my followers, right? So now I'm like, how do I get more exposure? Okay, let's add YouTube in. And we all know creating YouTube content is so time consuming. So I'm slowly building that to expand my reach. And my goal is, I just shipped 3 books to Australia, Croatia, and Switzerland. And like to know that I'm starting to like reach more and more people. I mean, my goal is that this is kind of this household library of technique books for injectors. So it's really just expanding my reach at this. My next like 365 years is going to be just totally focused on reach and volume.
It's awesome. Yeah. No, no, it's good because again, there's nothing, from what I know, we need things like that, right? There is no education. I mean, no, there is education, but no formal education on aesthetics, like you said. Take weekend courses and then just go for it, right? So having that again goes back to from your past experiences. How can you help people, right? So you're an experienced injector. You dealt with complications before because that's something scary too. You start injecting people, and weird complication happens, and it's not like you can go back to. There's not really a lot of information out there. So having a book like that, resource like that, I think is amazing. I think it's going to do very, very well. Um, so I know we talked about what's so a piece of advice that you would give somebody that feels stuck. Either they nurse practitioner, PA physician, they're stuck working for insurance, grinding, and they have no control of their time, their freedom. They would love to start their own business, or they would love to start their own practice, but they don't even know where to start.
I would just tell them, don't quit your job outright, but it's going to take work. It's going to take you're going to sleep less, you're going to wake up early, you're going to work at night when the baby goes to bed, and you're going to have this overlap of wild commitment to what you want your future to be. And for me, I had to work as a cardiology PA full time while I opened the gyms because I needed that income stream. So I think people get stuck in the that Venn diagram moment, that gray moment where they're not making as much and they want to grow something. They have to trim the fat of their life and minimize expenses. And if this is what they really want, they have to get down and dirty. They have to get the people in their support system on board and kind of like put their goals out there and say, this is what we're going to do. But there's going to be a period of time where they're going to have to wake up early, go to work, come home, take the baby to soccer practice, put the baby down for bed, and then work again on your business. And I think that period of time is really scary for people. And for me, it wasn't. For me, I think the harder something is, the more excited I get because I know somebody else isn't going to be able to do it. So the hard work never scared me. And I think that's where people get stuck is like, I have this full time job, but I have this dream. Okay, well, then you're going to have to do both at the same time for a period of time while it's growing. And then there will be a period of time, a moment where you can let go of that job because you're starting to get revenue stream from this. But I think that gray is where people get really uncomfortable. And I think that's where that place of being uncomfortable is where the most growth happens. So I would say my piece of advice is be okay with sleepless nights. Be okay with maybe making a little bit less to take a giant step forward towards your goals, but they have to kind of sit in that overlap for a period of time, which is uncomfortable.
Absolutely, yeah. And it goes back to, um, if other people have done it, it's gonna be hard. But if other people have done it, so can you, right? And that's a big thing that people need to understand. And even though it's scary at times, so I mean, this has been a great conversation, Alexis. I learned a lot more about you and. What's going on in your future and what you want to do with the education part, and that's great. That's awesome, and it's needed. Where can people connect with you?
Through social media is the easiest way. Slide into my DM. My Instagram is the Orlando Injector underscore, and my YouTube is the Orlando Injector. My TikTok is the Orlando Injector, and my email is the Orlando Injector at gmail.com. But I would love to connect with anybody. I'm an open book and I don't gatekeep anything.
Absolutely, and we'll link that on the description how to find you. And it's been a pleasure talking to you. And thank you for being on the podcast and just sharing your story and your goals for the future.
Thank you for having me. The honor's all mine.